Welcome to another episode of the Founder Podcast. Today I am interviewing Joseph Shalaby. He is the founder of eMortgage Capital. This is one of the largest loan originating companies in the nation. Literally, they locked down $1 billion in loans last quarter alone. Over the last 3 months, insane. This guy has built an incredible brand, impressive personal brand online. In this episode, we dive in on what it is like to build a personal brand alongside a great business. A lot of business owners are really wanting to build up that personal brand. Like, how do I get started? What space should I start in? Like, what kind of content should I be creating? And this really applies to any business. I don't care what industry you are in. If you are in business, you're in the business of building up your personal brand. We talk about all the details and more on this episode of the Founder Podcast. So, Joseph, you are building one of the most incredible loan origination platforms in the United States, one of the fastest growing. I mean, you did $1 billion last quarter in revenue or in loan originations. That's wild. Like, tell me, how is that even possible right now? You got interest rates, you got really everything fighting against you. Like, how are you pulling this off?
Well, the answer is it's kind of simple. We continue to scale in terms of the human collateral that we have. So we've created a very attractive platform for loan officers to just want to join. And what we really stand behind is marketing, technology, automations, so that you can reach a broader audience, and data aggregation. So we're big on data. We're big on lead generation. So we help our originators not just on the best compensation side. So we offer the most aggressive compensation in the industry, but we also help them actually brand themselves, brand their social media, create content, create more opportunities for lead generation, data aggregation, and then help them systemize ways to really expand their audience. So, there's a combination of things that we always push to innovate, and we're big leaders when it comes to innovation on tech, innovation on data solutions, and innovation on lead generation.
Yeah, I find that to be extremely important no matter what industry you are in, right? Like, a lot of people have a great product, great solution, but very few have the leads, right? Like, they suffer from the obscurity, getting in front of the consumer, the end. So, I mean, obviously, you guys have figured out something pretty special to be able to do it. I mean, really, 2024 has not been a very kind year to anyone outside of the big tech companies, right? A lot of the small to mid-size organizations. I mean, your middle upper size as far as a company is concerned. Most of them are struggling, right? Interest rates are crushing small to medium-sized business. And so, like, what kind of strategies are you guys utilizing to go and generate these type of leads where you can continue to push revenue?
So we're big buyers of data from the bureaus. So that's an easy solution. And one thing that's been unique to me specifically as a leader within the industry is I'm a big lead gen guy, and I know the call center space and I understand it, and I really try to push in that direction. So I understand lead monetization. I'm big on creating my own call center, which I have many. And then creating the data, creating the call center workflows to get folks to actually, warm the leads up, transfer them over to a loan officer, so it's a hot transfer. So, understanding call centers, understanding lead gen, understanding the monetization process of data is pretty unique in our industry, because it's usually like mortgage guys refer to call center guys to generate leads, if they even think that. Majority of our industry is fully reliant on realtor relationships. 90%, 95% of our industry does not even think that there's leads to be, that leads are a possibility. So
you're
I
telling
already
me
have
you're
an upper hand.
You're really generating directly from the consumer rather than.
Yes, it's I help with the consumer direct platform, and I help our loan officers understand that consumer direct is the way to go. And
Yeah,
I know you're in the solar space, pretty similar. It's kind of like if you're competing against a solar guy who's just going on doors and knocking, like you're just going to crush him. Like
right.
what are you doing? That's such an old school way of lead gen. There's so
Right.
many additional ways to generate leads. You don't have to door knock. Yet 99% of the solar industry is doing it that way. Same in my space, in the mortgage space. Like everybody wants to talk to a realtor, or work with their members at church or
So do you guys do all your own in-house marketing? You have a pretty big marketing team.
we actually, so I have my own retail floor, consumer direct floor, but my consumer direct floor is a guinea pig for me to uh, innovate new lead strategies, new marketing strategies, and then just roll them out at scale to my organization.
That's awesome. So how big's your marketing department? I mean, obviously, if
Well,
you're
there's many facets to marketing, there's lead gen, there's content creation, there's
yep,
podcast
all
um,
marketing.
team. So like, I got all types of people in every one of those departments. So marketing's pretty diverse amongst all departments, right? But
I mean, the reason I ask is like what I found is like most successful companies own their own marketing, right? A lot of guys they try outsourcing it, hiring agencies, everything else to be able to get to the top, and they never quite learn their own strategy or develop their own team or anything like that. And I really feel like that was our personal success, right? Building a 30 plus man internal marketing team where we generated our own leads, we created our own content, right? Like everything was self-generated. And so like I guess I just was, trying to understand a little bit more like what that journey has been for you and building that out.
yeah, so we have our own call center with, if you want to count each one of those agents as part of the marketing team, that's the call center. There's probably like 20 people there. We have our in-house marketing team for content creation. We got 4 people full-time for that in-house. We got another 6 people overseas. Then we got like SEO guys. We got editors. So we've been, fortunately, a lot of that stuff can be outsourced overseas.
Right.
So we probably got another 10 people there. So I mean, we probably have 35 plus people total in just the marketing space.
Yeah. And I'm assuming you feel like that's like your main competitive advantage, like the fact that you own the lead generation.
Well, that is one competitive. There's 5 of us mega companies in the country,
Hmm.
and one of them are probably listening to this show. But what I feel like my biggest competitive advantage amongst my competitors is that I'm the only one who's got a massive social media following and who's also a true creator on social media and has a podcast. So, I try to differentiate because I got 5 major competitors. None of them have millions of followers. None of them have a top podcast. So I'm like, and I'm really leaning into um, being the biggest brand in the world on in the mortgage space. I'm already the biggest brand in the mortgage space on the planet as a personal brand, and my company is the biggest brand on social media. We're bigger than any other mortgage company on social media by like 10x. Um, I'm also 3x larger than any mortgage influencer on social media. So I've leaned into that. That was an initiative I started this year because all my competitors, they could do the same thing. They could buy data, they could market, they could,
Right.
create, they could, because they could write a check for all that stuff and they all have money, so
Right.
that they want data, if they want this or they want that, they're going to have to, they just stroke a check. What
Yeah.
they can't do, Chris, is go viral because that
Nice.
takes you doing the work.
Right.
And what I've learned in this journey of going viral, especially over 40 years old, is I got to really like humble myself because to go viral over 40, like you got to do things that someone like I don't want to say I'm prominent. I come from very poor roots, but I've been fortunate enough to really like succeed in life, you know, and to go viral. I do man on the street content where I'm being rejected by like, I mean, it's humbling stuff, and
Right.
it's cool. I've really accepted it, but it's been a journey, and I know my competitors aren't going to do what I do.
Right.
I know I have a background as an actor. I was really rejected a lot when I was an actor, as a performer, theater performer. So I kind of had that, and I had to kind of like tap into those years as a kid, 17, 18, just getting rejected all the time, and then going back and when I was, starting my business or whatever. But now it's like, man, this is like I'm starting over as an
Yeah.
entrepreneur, as a content creator. So
So
it's
I mean, it brings up a strong question, strong topic. Like, I mean, you're in the loan origination space, and you're focusing on personal branding and everything else. Like, do you believe that a personal brand, content creation, podcasts, whatever it may be, can impact any business? And like, I mean, how do you think that can impact any business?
I love that question. Thank you for asking that question. Personal brand is the absolute future. And if you're not building a personal brand, regardless of what industry you're in, you are doomed. You are doomed, and you should figure out what else to do because the reason why I really leaned in hard to establishing a personal brand this year is because I mean, my competitor. The real reason was the person I selected, the biggest brand in mortgage, was supposed to work for me. He ended up going to my competitor, and it really upset me. So I said, you know what, I'm gonna destroy you. So just that fueled me. But then it dawned on me that I had no big personal brand. My company didn't have a big personal brand, and I'm like, but we were still one of the biggest companies. Yet my competitors don't have a personal brand, and no one really cares. In my industry, we're like archaic. Yet in the real estate space, you got Ryan Serhant, you got Gary Vee, you got Grant Cardone. They all understood personal brand
Right.
in real estate. But in my space, which used to be the biggest industry pre-crash in '08, but after the crash, what happened to my industry? It imploded. Nobody cared about personal brand. Nobody cared about mortgage. Nobody cared. But like we are the back end to the real estate. Like without us, there's no real estate. Right. But we don't have any Gary V's, Grant Cardones, nobody. So like it's just like, why does that industry have big personal brands, but my space does not have it at all? No big creators. So I just sat there contemplating, going, man, my industry really is whack. And we're the most lucrative industry of all industries. Maybe solar is more lucrative, but we used to be the most lucrative industry, and we're definitely more lucrative than real estate. But I leaned in hard to the personal brand. You know what that has done for me? Establishing the biggest personal brand in the industry. Now all the top talent wants to work here.
Right.
And all the top talent now just calls me direct. Like, I just want to go work for you. Like they're at my competitors, but I established such a big personal brand, such a big company brand, such a big podcast brand. And all those fuel one thing, my company.
Right.
And it's like,
yeah, I couldn't agree more. I think personal brand is like, obviously you see a lot more people leaning into the personal brand in 2024, but I still think it's so underplayed and and still so much room to grow.
yeah,
Right? We're going to see huge personal brands come out in the next 2, 3, 5, 10 years and continue to impact every space. Like I was talking with a podcast buddy of mine out of Atlanta, and he was saying like, man, a lot of these big brands are just missing the mark on being able to go and like run a podcast, right? Like, why isn't Ford running a podcast? Why isn't Coke running a podcast, right? Like, taking their influence, making it personal. I think there's like so much value to personal branding because it creates this real personal connection to the business. It's not skyscrapers and cash, right? Now it's a face, it's a mentality, it's a personality, it's all these things. And so I really, I mean, obviously I agree with you. That's the reason why I'm in the podcast space. I heard there's an adage floating around now. It's like every guy with a personal brand wants to be an entrepreneur, and every entrepreneur wants to have a personal brand. And so we're both like chasing the opposite side, right? Like both the guys that only have personal brand, they want to they're figuring out ways to monetize it and run a real business. And then there's me and you, right? Like we come from that space where we've made hundreds of millions in real business, but we've done it faceless, and we need to go out and be able to continue to create influence. So yeah, I love that topic. I love the direction you're going. Like what kind of, so obviously you said it's provided recruiting opportunities and everything else. Like where else have you seen huge advantages from focusing on your personal brand?
I'm starting to see direct monetization efforts. Like everybody who I talk to as a consumer, because I have 6 jobs, right? I'm a dad. I'm a CEO, the founder. I call all the decisions. I still originate business myself. I'm the main recruiter. I'm a content creator. I'm a podcaster. So in every one of my jobs, even as a father, my friends' kids know me. As a content creator, people know me. Like as a podcaster, I got a top podcast. So in every space, they're all kind of just fueling each other. As a recruiter, all the top talent's coming here. Like in every one of my 6 jobs, it's fueling it, right? It's fueling the job, like one of my jobs. So where have I seen growth? It's helping me in every vertical, every single one of them. And not only that, above all, the amount of opportunity through the contacts that I'm getting, meeting guys like you, meeting guys like, you know, Dan Fleischman, meeting guys like Carson Jones, I meet 1 or 2 new founders or CEOs or market movers a day, every single day. Like now that didn't come from content creation because I work with like you, but then I meet influencers from the content creation world every day, like YouTubers, people that my kids look up to, which by the way, I'm super cool to my kids now, right? Because I'm on,
Yeah,
I'm
you're
on
a superhero.
media.
Dude, it is crazy. Actually, I got to share with you an experience that I had yesterday, Monday, Tuesday of this week, because of my podcast. Like the amount of reach that you get from building a personal brand is absolutely insane. So, had the offensive coordinator for the Texas Rangers, Major League Baseball, right, World Series defending champs. He reaches out to me on Instagram and he says, "Yo, been somebody recommended your podcast, and I just wanted to let you know that I love your stuff." Da, da, da. And then he reaches out to me again. He says, "Listen, I'm connecting so much with your style and your methodology and everything else." He's like, "I have this business that I want to talk to you about." Dude, he flies me out to Fenway yesterday, puts me up in the Ritz Carlton, go and attend batting practice, and then pitches me on this business idea that nobody is doing in the major leagues. Like he's developed this app, and it's a really cool idea. I'm going to share later. I won't give all the details on this, but it's like how cool. Like I'm sitting here living my childhood dream, hanging with Major League Baseball coaches and players, like because of a podcast, right? Like how is this even possible? You know, and so
It's
you know
so true. It's
it,
so true. I'm
it,
like living my childhood dream every day. Like I was, to your point, I'm going to use the same kind of example. On Sunday, I took my kid to a Rams game and we sat in not just the skybox suite at SoFi Stadium, like a presidential suite at SoFi Stadium, comp food, comp drinks, comp everything. And you know what? I paid nothing. I
was it with
paid
Dave?
$0
Was it
for
with
this.
Meltzer?
Huh?
Was it with Meltzer?
Yeah, with Dave Meltzer. He gave me all that for free. I paid nothing. This is because of the podcast. He
Right.
got like I met Dave through my, he was on my show. I was on his, vice versa. So this all happened. I paid no money because of the podcast. And I want to tell you something, Chris. I'd never been to a football game in my life. Never.
Really?
Always wanted to go. Never went once. Always wanted to. But here I am at like the nicest suite, paying nothing. And my kids here, and then the Rams girls come in and take pictures with us. It was like out of this world. And my son's just like another day in life, like piggybacking on all my resources. So it's just opened. And that was just Sunday. Like every day is something new, something exciting, something like out of this world that I would have never thought would be a reality for me.
Have you ever heard the rule of 7 hours with content?
No.
Dude, this will blow your mind. Okay, so no matter what your content is, whether it's a podcast or music or the written word, whatever, when someone spends 7 hours listening to you, whether it's your music or whatever it may be, they think that you are friends. It's a subconscious impact, right? Like your mind creates this mental connection, and you truly believe that this person and you are friends. Okay, after 7 hours. After 50 hours, you think you're good, really close friends. And after 300 hours, you're best friends. And so it's the reason why influencers like can push brands, right? When somebody has spent 300 hours listening to Taylor Swift music, or 300 hours listening to Joe Rogan's podcast or your podcast or whatnot, like their mind cannot tell a difference between you being best friends and their real best friend. And so like literally they will take everything you say as like, oh, my best friend recommended it, even though that's not necessarily what they're thinking. It's what they're subconscious. And it's just like the power of content and creating and getting active users. Like you create this one-sided friendship that's just absolutely insane.
That makes a lot of sense. I'm gonna piggyback on that. I shoot content with a 19-year-old YouTuber, and he's got he's one of the top 20 YouTubers. And when we go and shoot content, because he doesn't have followers, he has fans. When we go and we shoot content together, people are screaming. Like I was with the NSYNC, remember NSYNC or Backstreet Boys or something? Like we walked through like a Target, and his demographic is like 11 to 17. And I had learned that I no longer market to 40-year-old men. I market to their kids, because if their kids know me, then they're going to come work for me. And that's my mentality. It's like marketing toys. So I know that, like, and that's been and I'm going to tell you a story on Sunday that happened. But what I realized with him is like, he has fans, and these fans are screaming for him. Like, and they're like stopping us and harassing us to take a photo. Like as we're walking through Irvine Spectrum or Target or whatever it is, like they're freaking out. They're like panting as it's out of this world, like to see these girls, these little 14-year-old girls or 12-year-old girls, like screaming once they see him, like, oh my God, that's the famous TikToker, like he's famous on TikTok and YouTube, but like he really has created this like cult, of followers. But he also is very, very versed at getting rejected, because even though half the people will know him, we have to find the other half of people that don't know him, so we create content with them.
Yeah. It's crazy. Like just tying this all back to the personal brand, like, man, when you can build a strong personal brand, you can turn it into monetization. And once again, we're really starting to see this in the music industry, in the acting industry. Like these people that have done a phenomenal job creating personal brands, where previously they made all their money from like selling records or filming movies, they've now shifted into selling product. You look at like Ryan Reynolds, for example, with Mint Mobile.
Yeah.
Like literally leveraged his personal brand to building $1 billion mobile phone business, right? Like that wouldn't even been like under consideration 20 years ago. Like people wouldn't ever been doing this. There's just so much power. And I love what you're doing with your personal brand. And I think there's a lot to be learned there.
And one thing I want to tell you, just piggybacking on what I said earlier, is the demographic. I'm on every platform, so I'm the biggest on Instagram, but I'm pretty big on TikTok, Snapchat, YouTube, Facebook. And I was at church on Sunday, and we're standing in line after church, and you're waiting in line for food and your coffee, and there was 3 people in front of me. Okay, there's a grandma, like an auntie, and a little kid. The 10-year-old stops and goes, "Hey, I subscribe to you on YouTube." And then the auntie, like the other lady, she's like, "Hey, I actually follow you on Instagram." She was like 50. And then the grandma was like, "Oh, I love your content on Facebook." Like, it's the same content, mind you, on all three platforms with three different demographics, and they were all following me, all of them. You know,
That's awesome.
so,
That's
so
awesome.
you know, when people are like, "Oh, I'm only going to post on Instagram, or I'm only going to post on TikTok, or I'm only going to post on Snapchat," like, hit every one of them different. The name of the game since I started this was, how many eyeballs can I attract to the brand?
Right.
How many eyeballs am I touching every single day? Because I don't care. I'm not doing this for money. You know, like, I don't need the money. I just
Right.
want the brand. I want the eyeballs.
Yeah.
And seeing that materialize in my personal life and my kids' life, because my kids, you know, their friends know me, or sometimes I'll put them in. I've really like taught my kids to embrace social media, because social media, whether parents like it or they hate it, they have to accept it. So if
Right.
you don't get your children to embrace it for good now, they will embrace it for evil later, right? So I'm teaching my kids how to utilize social media in a positive way right now, where they're not going to be impacted spiritually, emotionally, mentally. Like, they're ready for what's to come, because a lot of parents are like, "Oh, my kids will never go on Instagram, or my kids will never go on Snapchat or TikTok." Like, your kids are all going to go on that. That's like our parents telling us, "You're never going to go on the internet ever." Like, what? Like, all business is done on the internet. Can you imagine, like, you telling your kids you're not going to go on the internet?
Oh
Like,
man. Funny. So what? So you have millions of followers on these different platforms, right? Like,
yeah, I have, well, a million on over a million, about 1.1 million on Instagram. My company has almost 3 million on Instagram. We got like 550,000 for my company on coffees. I got like 100,000 on TikTok, 15,000 on YouTube, 50,000 on Snapchat. So it's growing by the day.
so what advice would you give to somebody that's listening to this podcast and they're like, okay, look, I'm sold on going and building a personal brand. Where do I start? What focus should I have? Like, what should be steps one, two, and three, and how long should they be taking those steps before they start seeing results?
There, you have to create I know this is cliche and it's like almost hokey, but I'll put out content that totally flops, and I'm like, how did that flop? I got a million followers. Um, and then I'll put out content that does amazing. It's like, but the algorithm will push to 10% of your followers, and then it'll push to the masses. So your 10% might not like what you publish. So keep creating. Don't stop. But most importantly, what I learned, this big lesson, like, be uncomfortable, because you will not be creating good content if you're just comfortable. Like, if it's easy, it's not good content. If you're getting yelled at or spit at, or someone wants to fight you, it's good content. That's good content. Like, if you're going to get beat up for your content, or you're running away from security for your content, that's even better. Yeah, I know it sounds weird, and I say this when we're out filming in places. I'm like, man, I'm kind of like thrilled. Like, security's chasing us right now to kick us out of this venue. Like, it's kind of cool, you know. Like, here I am, 42-year-old man, like CEO of a big company, like running from like an 18-year-old security guard.
So it sounds like, I mean, just create regular content, make it a little bit divisive, something that's going to elicit a little bit of emotion. What other piece of advice would you give to somebody that's just starting out?
and and you have to be pretty good at, like, editing, so understand editing concepts. But the beautiful thing about editing is, it's all like, our editors are in the Philippines. They're like $5 a video, $10 a video. So don't think like you got to do the work. A lot of people are like, I can't edit videos. Like, yeah, you're damn right you can't edit videos. That's not your job.
Right.
Go on Fiverr, go on Upwork, go on something, send them your raw footage, tell them how you want the video edited. Don't think you could do it alone. Like, you can't do it alone. But that's what VAs are for. So the editors do the hard, heavy lifting. You send them the raw footage. A lot of people stop there. Like, I'm not going to create content. I'm not going to edit that. Like, that's like, I've heard people creating content. They edit it themselves. They stop because they don't want to edit anymore. Like, dude, what are you doing editing?
Yeah.
Like, why are you even doing that?
Yeah.
Like,
that really just plays into the whole the energy concept. Like you can't be stuck doing stuff that's low energy, low value, right? Like stuff that you hate doing and that clearly you could go and hire out in the Philippines for $5 or whatever it is.
Well,
And
it's $10 now. It used to be $5, but
well, yeah, whatever it is. I mean, the reality is that's why most entrepreneurs stop, right? Like they get stuck doing the things that they hate, and so then rather than go and find somebody that will do it, they start giving up or they get burnt out or whatnot. And so I think
exactly.
that's extremely valuable advice. Joseph, man, I appreciate it. Where are the best channels? So you started rolling a new podcast. How's that podcast going?
Yes. Make sure you are subscribed or listening to Coffees for Closers, COFFEEZ. Just type in Coffees with a Z. You will find it on Apple. You'll find it on iTunes, Spotify, Amazon. And we post live on LinkedIn, YouTube. Make sure to follow me on Joseph Shalaby, JOSEPHSHALABY, on all platforms: YouTube, TikTok, Snapchat, Facebook, LinkedIn. And then obviously I'll follow my company, eMortgage Capital, EMC, eMortgage Capital, on all platforms as well. We post live. Today we had Greg Lutzka in studio. Yesterday we were at Hubble Studios, the #1 studio in Los Angeles. We were with the CEO Vince Ricci yesterday in their studio. So we're posting with all the top founders on the planet. Tomorrow we're in studio with Travis Matthew, the CEO, Ryan Ellis tomorrow. So did you ever have him on your show?
No, man, that's awesome though.
Yeah. So we're with all top founders. And I've just been like building that. I'm going into YPO because I've been like trying to find more founders, because between like joining the masterminds, like I just want to get every top founder on the planet on my show. And I'm sure you do too. Because they're just awesome people to collaborate with. So follow me on Joseph Shalaby, Coffees for Closers, eMortgage Capital, on all platforms.
Let's go. Joseph, thank you so much for your time. I know it's extremely valuable. You got a lot of really good content, really good, just advice for these guys, especially in the personal branding. I thought that was just a fun topic to talk about. Appreciate you. Until next time.